Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Bell Buoy. My name is Paul Yule, and today we're going to briefly talk about the Chesapeake Bay Commercial Vessel Index. Before I show you the index, I'll give you a little bit of background. So for many years, probably 45 or 50, most of my life, I have been very interested in boats on the Chesapeake Bay, primarily work boats, commercial vessels. And over my lifetime, I have accumulated a list of vessels, and I've done also extensive research on vessels as far back as the early 1800s. These would be the schooners, bug-eyes, pungies, etc., that were built on the Eastern Shore. And so a few years ago, I started to put together this index because what I realized was two things. Number one, the boats themselves are dying off. Many of these boats are no longer with us, and as they go, so often goes the memory. And second, the people that remember the boats, the people that have maybe photographs of the boats or have stories about the boats, those people, unfortunately, like all of us, are also dying off, sadly. And so we're losing this wonderful heritage. So, and I realized that throughout the Bay, Maryland, Virginia, Eastern Shore, Western Shore, that people have this knowledge in their head, but we need to get that knowledge in a database. We need to get it somewhere that it can be saved for posterity, that people will be able to look at it, that people will be able to do research on it. And really what kicked this into high gear for me is, and I'll tell you a real quick story, but when I was a kid growing up in Justiceville, Hunting Creek area, my grandmother, who was born 1894, used to tell me about her daddy's skipjack. And the skipjack was called the Roo Brothers. Now, she knew the name was the Roo Brothers, but she didn't know it was a skipjack. All she could say is it was just an old oyster boat. But they used to go picnicking on it on church on Sundays after church. And I really love to hear these stories. I've always loved to hear stories that older folks tell, and I really loved her stories, and I had her tell it to me over and over again. Well, she couldn't really remember what the vessel looked like. And over the years, certainly in the 70s and 80s and 90s, and early 2000s, I really kept wondering what did this boat look like? I kind of thought it was a skipjack, but I couldn't find any record of it, and I certainly didn't have a picture of it. And my grandmother was one of my heroes in life. I loved her more than life itself. And if this is a vessel that she remembered and was important to her and her dad, then it was important to me. But I wanted a picture. I wanted to see what it looked like. Well, I looked and looked and spent years looking. And finally, I found a record of a book that was published years ago called Tom Young's Skipjacks. And I found a reference in the index of the book to the Roo Brothers. Now, I didn't have the book, but I found a reference. Interestingly, I had to go to Australia virtually to get a copy of the book. But even before that, I'll never forget the day that Miles Barnes over at the Eastern Shore Public Library called me and said, "Hey, I've got something you might want to see." And I remember going there. He handed me the book. I opened the book, and there were several pictures of the Roo Brothers. And it was a very, very emotional moment for me. Well, I want to create that. We've done that a little bit over the years. I want to do more. I want to make this information available to everyone. So that's sort of the idea, the impetus behind this database called the Chesapeake Bay Commercial Vessel Index. So basically what it includes is it includes all kinds of commercial vessels used on or around the Chesapeake Bay. As I said before, Western Shore, Eastern Shore, Maryland, and Virginia, all of them. Even if the vessel wasn't built in the Chesapeake Bay region, if it worked in the Chesapeake Bay region, it is fair game to put in the database. And the database will obviously hold photos, it'll hold notes, it'll hold all kinds of records, and I'll show you that in a moment. But it is meant to be inclusive of all of these commercial vessels. And so what I need, and we at the Eastern Shore Maritime Museum need, is we need your input. We need your help. This is a sort of a crowdsourcing, I call it boat sourcing kind of project, and we need your input. I've been putting stuff in here for years. I'm exhausting my resources in terms of what I remember, what I know, what I can find. You all have a wealth of information. Now, real quick note about this. The Eastern Shore Maritime Museum is a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. We make no money off of anything ever. Trust me, we've had the museum for 10 years, I think, maybe a little more, and we've never turned a profit. We don't even break even. So so everything for us is an effort of love and appreciation for this heritage. This database will be made available to the public. It'll be made available to museums, all free of charge, no charge for anybody, anywhere, for any reason. There will be copies of it. You can go in and do searches and whatever you want. It's there for hopefully ever, and hopefully it will keep growing. So really that's sort of the background of it. And I want to show you what it looks like. So I know I've heard some people say, I'm not good with databases. You sent me that link, but I'm not sure what to do with it. Well, let me show you how easy it is. And I put the link down in the description here of the video. But if you open the link and you see Chesapeake Bay Commercial Vessel Index, you'll get a brief description there, and you will see these two boats, the Miss Anne and the Silver Mist. The Miss Anne belonged to Bob Parks of Hunting Creek, formerly of Tangier, and the Silver Mist belonged to Bluetail of Hunting Creek, formerly of Tangier. And you see Johnson's Wharf in the background. Well, this is where I grew up. I grew up between Hunting Creek Dock and Johnson's Wharf Dock. And I grew up around these boats and around Bob and Bluetail and Coconut and all of the Parks folks and Sam Brown and many, many others down there. And it's such a wonderful heritage to me. But if you see this picture, this painting, you will know you are at the right spot. So here's what you do. You click on the link, okay? Every time you think of a boat, click on the link, put the information in. Now, here's something I want to also make clear. It doesn't matter if you think we already have the boat in there. If you know something about the boat, put it in, okay? I'll sort it out, put it in. Second thing, it doesn't matter if you don't know much about the boat. Let's say, for example, it was a boat named the KDP and it was a round stern. And that's all you know, put it in, okay? Because what I do is I take all of the input from this public forum here and I compile it and I put it all together into the master database, which I will show you in a second. And that's something you will be able to search. So real quickly, you click on the link and you just fill in the blanks. What is the name of the commercial vessel? Okay, I'm gonna do one for you here, just as an example, the Silver Mist. I could do the Johnny Boy, I'm partial to round sterns, but it includes all kinds of boats. All right, so you put in the name, okay, Silver Mist, you type it in. What other names? And by the way, we're not worried too much about spelling. If it's legible, if I can figure it out, we're good. What other names, if any, did the vessel have in the past? That's important. Any names, type them in there. Put them in that blank. Just fill it in. Because as you know, many vessels have changed names over the years, and we need to be able to compile and make sure we're talking about the same vessel, even if it's over several generations and several names. If you know when the vessel was built, put that in. If you think you know, but you're not 100% certain, let's say you think it was 1938, put 1938 in a question mark, and that'll tell us you think it was 38, you're not 100% certain, but we can put that in as a possibility. Who was the vessel builder? If you know, first name, last name. If you don't know, if leave it blank, but put anything you have in there. Where was the vessel built? If you know, and the more specific, the better. So, for example, for a lot of time young skipjacks, if you put in Bloxham, well, Bloxham is a town on the eastern shore of Virginia, but really many of those were built on Young's Creek, which is down toward Clam. Be specific. Say Bloxham, Young's Creek, okay? Who is the original owner of the vessel? If you know, put their name in. Who's the current owner of the vessel? If you know, put their name in. And who are other owners of the vessel over her time period? Put their names in, okay? You're just filling in the blanks. If you know the length of the vessel, if you know the beam of the vessel, if you don't worry about it. What type of boat was the vessel? Dead rise, schooner, skipjack, bug eye, boat, you name it. What color? What was the color of the vessel? And I'm primarily looking here at the color of the hull. Many of them are going to be obviously white, but there are other colors out there. And if you recall the Pungy, which is a 19th century, very popular, beautiful boat on the Chesapeake, those sides were Pungy pink with green sort of trim. But put the whole color. If you remember the trim, put it in there. I remember when I was growing up, a lot of boats had white hulls and they had what I call boat green. I guess it's lime green trim, or believe it or not, orange trim, or maybe varnish trim. Put it in there. Anything you know, put it in there. What was the construction type of the vessel? Wood, fiberglass, aluminum, etc. If you know it was wood, but it was fiberglassed over, just put wood, fiberglassed over. What type of power did the vessel have? Diesel, gas, import, outboard, sail, etc. And the more specific you can be on that, the better. For example, if you know it had a 671 Detroit diesel, put 671 Detroit diesel. Okay. Be as specific as you can. Again, if you don't know, leave it blank. In what region of the bay was the vessel primarily used? And I realize a lot of these vessels were used in various parts of the bay, but you could say lower Chesapeake Bay in Virginia, western shore of Maryland, upper bay near Potomac River. You could put whatever region you want in there. In which types of fisheries or industries was the vessel used? And you could just type in crab potting, crab dredging, oyster dredging, gill netting, pound netting, crab scraping, crab trapping, trot lining, conking, whatever else. Just write it in there. Put as many as you know. Where's the vessel now? And if you know that, hey, now the vessel is in Rockall, Maryland, and it's owned by blah, 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 put it in there. If you don't know, leave it blank. Or you can even put, well, last I heard, she was on Chincoteague. Okay. And then the last one is there any other information about this vessel you can share with us? Anything you remember or even think you remember can be very, very helpful. Okay. Write it in. You have plenty of space there. Write it in. Absolutely anything you think stands out, anything special. Hey, she was a very fast boat. She was a beautiful boat. She had a lot of flair, whatever the case might be. A lot of tumble home, whatever the case might be, write it in there. Okay, the more the better. And then the next few questions are voluntary and will never, ever, ever be shared. Very important. These don't get put in the public database and they're never shared. Your name, your email address, your mailing address, and your phone number. Now, why would I want those things? Again, they're never to be shared, ever. Just want to make that clear. But one thing I do is I always send a thank you email to anybody who submits something. And second, and this is more important, I think, as we develop the record for a vessel, if you've submitted something, I might, if I have your email address or your phone number, I can reach out to you and say, hey, I just heard that this vessel, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? Okay, do you remember anything about that vessel? Do you remember when she sank off of, the Rappahannock River? I can reach out to you. I promise not to bug you, but I will reach out to you. So put that in there if you could. Again, no need to worry about it going public. This stuff is never made public, this part of it. The boat information is, the personal information is not. And then all you do at the end is you hit submit. And once you hit submit, what it does is it sends your record to me in another database. And then what I do is I take your information. I look to see if I have the vessel in the database. If I do, then I take your information and sort of corroborate it with the information I have. You may have information that 6 other people that submitted the boat didn't. And that's the real benefit of doing it this way. I'll mesh them. I'll put your information in the record, other than the personal information about the boat. I'll put it in the record. And that way we'll have a pretty complete history. And I'll show you that in just a second. Once you hit submit, it'll say, thank you for your response. Would you like to submit another? One thing that I do is, and I hope you will do this as well, and I do it, believe it or not, on my phone. A lot of times I'll be somewhere and I will I'll remember the name of a boat, or I'll remember something about that boat. I have this page bookmarked, this link bookmarked on my phone. I can just go in, open it up real quick, and type in, oh, her name was Mary E. I think she was a box stern, and I can fill in what I know. And that way we start the process of building a record on the vessel. So put in as many as you can. Please, please. I know it takes time, but you're doing a service for our heritage, yours, mine, and everyone else's. Can you imagine, 200 years from now, 150 years from now, when our great, great, great grandkids are like, I've gone on ancestry.com and my great, great, great grandfather was a waterman on the Chesapeake Bay, but I don't know anything about him or his boat. Well, this is where this type of information would be very, very valuable. Trust me, to a family member. Okay, so that's how you submit it. That's all you do. Now, before I shift over to showing you the actual database, let me make a note here. At the top, I have my email address, drpaulule@gmail.com. I also have a phone number there. If you don't like computers and you don't want to type stuff in, you feel free to send me an email with the information, and I'll put in the form for you, or call me. Call me, and I will. I'll take the information over the phone. Or if you are on the Eastern Shore on Saturdays, near the historic Anancock School in Anancock, come by the museum. We'll put it in right there. We'll have the laptop. We can put stuff in together. Okay, so that's how you enter the data. Now, this is what the thing looks like. Now, it probably looks to a lot of you like a real mess. It's not. There's a purpose to it. It just collects a lot of data. So you will see I have a lot of fields up here. Every vessel has a DBase ID. We have vessels names, all the stuff you put in, including tonnage, gross tonnage, etc. All the information about it that I have, where built, any notes, any sources will go in there, etc. Lots of information, lots of space for information. So I homed up here to the sail one. So every record has an ID that is sail and a number if it's a sailing vessel, dead and a number if it's a dead rise, buy and a number if it's a buy boat, tug and a number if it's a tugboat. You get the point. A ferry and a number if it's a ferry boat. Steamer and a number if it's a steam vessel. And so you'll see these all, by the way, up here, there's about 250 or 300, I think, sailing vessels. These are all, if I scroll over here, you can see schooners, skipjacks, sloops, flatties, brogans, pungies, lots of different sailing vessels, bug-eyes, square-rigged, and otherwise. These are all vessels that I've accumulated over the years that were built, really most of them prior to 1900. So I have a lot of those in there. But I want to show you the real value of this. And if I could, I'm going to go, and I was talking about the Silver Mist, so I'm going to show you what we have on the Silver Mist. So when I share this database, it will be read-only. So when you get the link for read-only, this is probably in 3 or 4 weeks. When you get the link for read-only, you can't mess it up. Okay, it's going to be protected, so you can't change it. I do that because I want to make sure we're getting information in here accurately. We have to have data integrity with the database. And so I vet all the input into the other form into this so we can make sure that it's fairly accurate. But let's say you get this link and you're like, hey, I'm interested in the Silver Mist. I'm sorry for being biased, but again, it's a round stern. Love those round sterns. So all you do is Control F. Okay. And this, by the way, I am working on building a front end platform that will make the search process even easier than this. There will basically be, it'd be like a search engine. There'll be a box. It says search, you type it in, pulls it up. Find in sheet. You just Control F and hit final, box pops up here. When that happens, what you could type in a boat name, you could type in a location, you could type in an owner name, you could type in anything you want, and it will search the entire database and look for that item. So I'm really interested in the Silver Mist. Silver Mist. And you'll see I typed it in. There is one record of one, so I only have one vessel in here that was named the Silver Mist. And I go down and it's dead 4. So it's one of the earlier dead rises I put in. Okay. I don't have a second or third name or a fourth name. And again, that's why this is so, so important. Those of you on Tangier, if you, for example, remember, oh my gosh, when I was a kid, Bluetail bought that boat from, and she was originally named. That's the kind of stuff that we need to know. Just go ahead, do the form, fill in the blanks, and I'll update this database. Okay. I don't have tonnage or registry information on that. You will see she was a wood boat. Hull color was white. She was a dead rise. I always put stern type in, and that could be diamond, box, tuck, round, drake tail, whatever. Propulsion type, I don't have that in here, but I know pretty much what she had in it. But I will go in and I'll say, okay, it was a gas inboard. Okay, so I'll put gas inboard in. And if I know it was a 6-cylinder Chevy or an 8-cylinder Ford, whatever, I can type that in. Okay, length, width. By the way, I have a lot of this information. I just haven't got it in here yet. Year built, where built. Again, where built. One could be, for example, you look at the one up here, Survivor, Deltaville, but maybe she was built on a specific railway in Deltaville. I'll put that in as where built too. Vessel used, crab potting, oyster dredging. If you look at that and you're like, hey, she was used for more than that. Bluetail may have used it for pound netting back in the, let me know. Do a form. Bluetail Parks, Winifred Parks was the master owner. Sailed from primarily Hunting Creek. You'll notice there are notes. There's source information. I'll come back to the photos in a second. And she is not registered anymore, and the boat was destroyed behind Bluetail's house in Hunting Creek. And so that's a record I have on her so far. Again, a lot of these are incomplete because I just don't have a lot of stuff, but I'm working on it. The really cool thing, that's all cool, but the especially cool thing is, and this is why, if you have photos, send photos. Okay, there is a photo link column or field in the database. Now, let me just make an observation here. I'm going to be honest with you. I copy every photo I can off Facebook. Okay, I take pictures. I've taken thousands of pictures. People have sent me pictures. I have scanned pictures. We are a nonprofit. We make no money. Matter of fact, we spend money to keep all this going. We never charge for anything. We don't even charge admission to the museum. We have a donation oyster shucking bucket. So we don't get anything out of it. So we're not making any money off your photos. If you put your name on the photo, that's great, because that way, if you've got I guess, what is it called? Watermark. That's great, because then we know people can see. But if you don't, that's okay. But the photos are going to be in here, and you shared them on Facebook. I'm just sharing them back. Okay. So if you click on the link, this is what's really cool. You click on the link and you go to the app, and you will see that I have created a photo album for the Silver Mist. And when you click on that, you will be able to scroll through. There are duplicates, okay, because I'm pulling this stuff from several different databases. I have everything backed up 20 ways from Sunday to make sure we never lose anything ever. And so I'll have duplicates in here. But if you scroll through, you'll see there's the Silver Mist. It just so happens there is Gladdy, Bluetail's oldest son, his boat, which is the Debbie Fay, which eventually became the Kathy P. On the inside, and on the very inside is the Miss Andrea, which was Coconut or Andy Ray Parks' boat, Bluetail's, I think, youngest son. And there's some stern shots of the other two. I didn't get a stern shot of the Silver Mist there. This is her in the later years when her cabin was different. And again, paintings, I have some duplicates and some other stuff here. So actually that one, yeah, there's a little bit of the stern of the Silver Mist. So as you look through these, you'll say, oh my gosh, I have pictures of that boat. Send them in to me. I'll add them to the photo album, and we'll have a complete record. So that's really the gist of how this thing works. That's the nuts and bolts of it. It's very easy for you to put information in. That was part of the design. Make it easy to put info in. Very easy to do that. Plus, you could call me or email me, and I'll put it in for you. But and it will be made available. This actual main database will be made available to everybody, free of charge, um, for you to look at, search. And as you look at it, again, it's going to probably be about 5 weeks before I get it out, but the public version. But again, the public version has no contact information, no phone numbers, none of that. Excuse me, none of that stuff. But once you get it out, you look up vessels, and as you see a vessel, even if it's a vessel that's already in there, and you know something that's not listed, let me know, and I'll put it in there. Very important. We got to preserve this. It's open to Maryland, Virginia, Western Shore, Eastern Shore, any boat that ever worked on the Chesapeake Bay, even if she was made somewhere else. Okay. As always, thank you for listening. I apologize for going on, but this is a very important project to our Chesapeake Bay heritage, both sides of the bay, both states of the bay. And I really, really appreciate your help, and really want to make sure this is this thing grows. Like I said, I've been working on this for, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, but we need more help. I really need your help. So if you have any questions, let me know. And again, thank you very much for listening to this edition of Bell Buoy.